It's supposed to be on YouTube, right? Making sure we're live. Looks like we might be, but it doesn't say. Da da da. Doesn't say we're live yet.
Pause for station identification.
Indeed.
This is the part where we start saying random stuff, and then YouTube all of a sudden says, "Hey, by the way, you're live."
Right. Exactly. Right in the middle of me talking about, I don't know, how I took a shit or something. It's gonna be like, oh, bam, yeah, I heard all about it. Thanks, YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not live. Maybe it's me not hitting the button right. Well, I've gone down a rabbit hole of wrong buttons.
All insanity
I feel like
now.
Yeah, this is a roll for sanity.
I think nothing but cats everywhere. Cats as far as it goes now.
I'm trying to switch accounts, and I'm
actually, it says we're streaming. It says we're streaming.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say we're live anywhere else.
This is
let me update.
Part of the show.
Yeah,
where we try to figure out whether we're streaming or not.
I think we gotta be streaming. Restream says we're streaming. I'm changing the name.
It's the wrong name.
Yeah, I'm changing it right now. I'm gonna give you some vocal fry. Yeah, I'm changing it right now. Come on, YouTube. Coming to you live. You know, apparently, hey, we are live.
Tonight only.
Definitely.
Apparently, vocal fry used to be like a thing, like an actual thing. I was looking it up on YouTube. And there's all these examples of like James Bond, for example, talking with vocal fry and in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, a different, like Cary Grant or whatever. And it's this whole deal of like, hey, vocal fry is not about Valley Girls. It's an old thing that used to be kind of touted as a good thing. So, hey, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. Hello, this is the Geeky Gamer podcast. We're a few gamers. It's Ken, Bill, which is myself, and Mr. Holker over there. And we invite creative guests such as Mr. Eric Holden on here to do casual conversations about all the stuff. You can read the description. You know what we're doing. We're gonna do some introductions, and then we're gonna save you for last, Eric.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no one cares who I am. Hey, Holker, who are you?
My name is Daniel, and I am the guest co-host of this podcast and cast member in the games.
Indeed. Normally we have Mr. Ken Howl on the mic. He's here. He's just like a vapor. He's behind the scenes, making it all rock and roll. And Ken is a filmmaker and all sorts of things, and we can talk about him because he's awesome. He's also a cast member on the campaigns I run. Hey, Patreon, thank you so much. Tim Roberts, Daniel Holker. Who's that? Nostalgic and Natalia Cline. If you want to join the Patreon, we have one. It's patreon.com/DreadLore. That's LORE. Art and media production is by Couchfire Media. You can do www.couchfiremedia.com. You can hire them. They're pretty sexy and sweet, I hear. I don't know if there's any music, but if there is, it's by all lowercase letters and Mr. Interrupt. Okay. Mr. Eric Holden, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Eric Holden. I'm the co-host of The Goblin's Corner, a weekly tabletop podcast that specialize. Yeah, get to see that part where I mess up. We specialize in storytelling, tabletop gaming, teaching people how to be good DMs, GMs, how to play great games, how to be good characters. And so we do different subjects every week, anything from writing your first world to making a Gish character in D&D.
Gestalt.
Yes.
Yeah. Making characters. Character char creation. I'm all right. Making some notes. Yeah. Okay, well, that's great. That's a good elevator pitch. Who are you, sir? How do we know each other?
I'm just a standard carbon-based life form that you hit up on Podmatch a little while ago. And we seem to be in the same nerd stream, so
nerd stream
kind of how
strong.
we came about. Yeah, I've been doing this podcast for about 3 years now, and we recently moved to YouTube about a year and a half to 2 years almost. And
moving to YouTube.
Yeah, well, we were on Spotify. We're still on Spotify, by the way, and iTunes and everything else. Then about a year into it, we decided to make the jump to video. Neither of us, by the way, know anything about audio and video, so I got to learn all of that on myself. And we built this delightful studio, which you see behind you, part of it at least. We've been having fun the whole time.
I am sharing right now your socials. So if anybody's on the chat, or I should say on YouTube, because it won't, the tubes of you, you've got goblinscorner.com, and then their Twitter handle is /goblinscorner. And your Instagram is the Goblins Corner, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And we're also on Blue Sky and Dice Camp as well.
Okay.
With Mastodon or anything. Goblins Corner. We're pretty much everything is Goblins Corner except Instagram, which we don't really do much with.
Dude, I will go on a tirade about Instagram and social media and such, but we'll save that for later. We don't need that right now. Right. I have looked at some of your website. I checked out a little bit of your Instagram. I attempted to make an Instagram of my own using that to promote. Really cool production quality. It seems like you guys do a lot with D&D, but just kind of gaming in general. I'm seeing NPCs, subclasses, spells, and stuff. It looks like for a video game of some sort.
Oh, for D&D.
Or is that 5e? Oh, that is 5e.
It's 5e stuff. We talk about a lot of different things. Most of our listeners tend to ask specifically for 5e, although I have played every game under the sun. I mean, you could see a lot of first and second edition behind me, but on the other side of the studio, there is White Wolf games. In fact, I play tested a lot of White Wolf because they're based out of Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is right down the street from me. Yeah. And I've also played lots of Shadowrun, GURPS.
Oh God.
Multiple different games. Yeah. I have played many different games over the years. There's a Troika book behind me. I got the new Fallout RPG.
Oh shit! Is it D20?
It is. It's interesting.
I don't like the D20 systems. Is it double D20 or is it just straight up D20?
I believe it's double D20.
Yeah, I
haven't actually looked too much into it. I briefly looked at it. It looked very much like a battle map type game system and less like a role-playing game. So I kind of turned that off and started digging up more White Wolf stuff because I'm running a Hunters campaign right now with my with one of my groups. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're tiny and human, and vampires and monsters exist.
Now, is this a fuck? I know White Wolf just came out with a new vampire. It's like vampire. It's like second edition, or is it fifth edition?
Yeah, I think it's like 60 or whatever it is. We're playing, I think, the one that's out of Onyx Path.
Okay, so
the 5e stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So Vampire the Vigil. I'm sorry, Hunter the Vigil, and then Vampire, the name I can never remember.
So I played Dark Ages and Vampire the Masquerade, so Old World. Then there's New World, which is Vampire Requiem. The rules are a lot better.
Chronicles of Darkness.
Chronicles of Darkness.
That's the one after that, which is what we're in.
So that's what you're in.
Yep.
So what I heard was the newest, or the Onyx Path version of Vampire, goes back to the Masquerade lore, but it uses an updated rule set. Is that true? I've never touched it.
Chronicles of Darkness actually kind of takes the old lore and then kind of expands upon it. So, for example, if I've been reading a lot of Mage lately, and basically the technocracy won, and so
of course you have to have conflict.
Yeah, they're called the Exarchs now, and so they spun up a new lore, but it alludes to like previous storytelling, and they did a really interesting way to do it in that That was the old world. We have no idea what happened because when
Right.
they remade the universe, everybody forgot. And I thought,
Right.
oh yeah, that's cool. You're a mage. You're rewriting reality.
Yep.
Vampire is a lot more brutal in Chronicles of Darkness. Kinda are stuck to the cities, and then there's crap out there outside the cities that just wants to tear you apart. Most likely werewolves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot darker. It's really interesting, and there's a lot of really cool characters. I especially love the game Sin Eater, which
Okay.
you get to
Never heard
play
of
as basically play as a revenant. So
Okay.
if you remember Wraith from old school World of
Yeah.
Darkness, the idea is that you die somehow, whether through
Mhm.
your own fault or someone else's, and then on the way to the underworld, this Geist, like a powerful undead spirit, comes up to you and is like, "Hey, buddy, you want to make a deal?" And so you kind of fuse with this spirit, come back pissed off and ready to rock.
Is it? It reminds me of Shadows of Mordor. Is it like that?
Sort of, yeah.
Did I get the name right? I've never played that game. I've watched the video walkthrough.
The biggest difference is you come back and you've got this other spirit in your head,
Mm.
and it doesn't necessarily want to do the same thing that you want to do. And
Right.
so you kind of have to like deal with it. So think one part the crow and one part multiple personality.
Yeah. That sounds so.
It's dope.
Shadows of Mordor. That's the one where you're the ranger that gets brought back by Celebrimbor, I think, right? Celebrimbus? I can't. He's the dude who made the rings, who literally forged the rings.
Mhm.
There's a second one where essentially Shelob is like an anti-hero-ish type thing. And in that, the wraith that is keeping you alive is constantly like working against you. And you have this split. There is something that reminds me of, and I can't. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that sounds really cool. So
Yeah.
you're a revenant in this game.
Yes,
Right
it's a
on.
lot of fun. At some point, I'm probably, I'm introducing my players to the Chronicles of Darkness, so they're all playing humans right now. But at some
Yeah.
point, they're all gonna die
Oh, of
horribly.
course.
Come back as a mage
Uh-huh.
or a vampire or even a revenant of some sort, like a Sin Eater.
So
That'll be
interesting.
a lot of fun.
So do you do the thing, and maybe the new system corrected this. Um, let me preface this as a question.
Okay.
Reconfigure this as a question. How do you feel about mixing and matching those different lores in the White Wolf universe in a single game?
I'm fine with that. Lore to me is whatever is necessary to build the story. One of the things that I'm really interested to, by the way, I haven't read any of the new World of Darkness, the 6e stuff that's come out. I think it's just
neither have I.
Vampire anyway. But
Okay.
Chronicles of Darkness I've read pretty extensively. One of the things I like about it is you can use it by itself, like one individual game, or you can use it together. And you can kind of buffet table it in many ways. You could take lore from one aspect and kind of incorporate it into your story, or you can take two conflicting pieces of lore, and it's purposely conflicting as well. And that's kind of cool because not everything the characters know. And in fact, there's a lot of things that they only assume. And that kind of gives an element of mystery into the game, which is a lot of fun. Plus, I love scaring my players, so.
Right, so you're actually doing it like a horror game.
Yeah.
It sounds like the system is better built for it. So one of our chat people, as well as Patreon members, is on the chat. Always here. This is Megan. Says GURPS. Wow, talk about a blast from the past.
I've got more if you're interested.
Yeah, there were several versions of GURPS, right?
I believe so, yeah. And then there's also Riffs, which kind of spun off from GURPS as well. Riffs is
okay.
oh god, I don't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, GURPS is like
in my nerd card back now.
System, role play system.
Generic universal role playing system.
I've never heard of any of this stuff.
Really? Oh, dude. Well, it's because I've shielded you from GURPS.
You see, back in the Pleistocene age, there were these older games.
Yeah.
Hey, I do all my role playing in the Holocene, okay?
So we're gonna bring in Holker here. Holker has an interesting talent for knowing everything. It's ridiculous. Hey, Holker, the Holocene age, when was that?
The Holocene was immediately after the Pleistocene, and it is generally marked by the end of the last ice age and the beginning of probably the beginnings of agriculture and just human habitation of most of the Earth. It was it's essentially the beginning of the modern era, geologically speaking.
So what Eric is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that he was gaming before you.
Yeah. And the Pleistocene, which began about 2 million years ago.
Megan says, dude, Aberrant was one of my favorite from White Wolf. Did you play Aberrant?
I have not. And interestingly enough, we just did an episode titled 5 TTRPGs You Should Be Playing Right Now.
Oh.
And one of them, my co-host Matt, drug up Aberrant. And somehow we have never played this game.
Whoa.
It is fan-fucking-tastic.
Aberrant.
It's okay. So, have you ever seen The Boys?
Oh yeah,
TV show.
I've seen the first and second season. I have not seen the third.
Okay, so imagine that in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty much what
That's
it
Aberrant?
has become. Yeah, it came up with this way before The Boys, and all that. It's just a game where it's just you're a brutal superhero, and it's ridiculous. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the World of Darkness that you know about, right? Like, I think it's its own world. I haven't played it. My co-host Matt brought it up, and he was just like, "How did we not know about this?" I mean, we've played Paranoia, and we haven't played Aberrant. So,
Wraith the Oblivion was one of my favorite besides Demon the Fallen. Vampire in all forms, and then actually the reason that I even got into Vampire and White Wolf and that stuff is because Megan introduced me, her and my friend Cameron, and the way that they made characters is you would start as a human, or you would build as a human, and then become a vampire. And then a lot of the ways those old school STs would do it is you'd run like session 0 as humans who then get turned or embraced, and maybe you turn into a ghoul first and you play through whatever. And I've attempted to do that, but it seems like most people don't have the patience. They want superpowers.
I think they should be started as sort of low-level vampires, like all of them.
Holker helped run a LARP. Have you ever had a LARP or played in a LARP, Eric?
as a matter of fact, it's been a while, but we did Nero for many years.
Nero.
It's a LARP. We did Nero South, which I haven't done that in about a decade or so at this point. But
what is it?
We used to do that. It's you roll off into the woods. It's got its own story. Nero's its own game, and but you've got the foam weapons, and you call out the damage when you hit with it. It's a lot of fun. I used to play monsters to make people roll new characters because it's fun doing that. But I played a character occasionally. Best story I have about LARPing is interestingly enough, this is Matt and I've known each other for years, and so when we were LARPing one time, they sent us out as goblins. This has nothing to do with the Goblin's Corner, by the way. Just
I was gonna ask.
Fun. Yeah, no. But interestingly enough, this is how it came about. And we had alchemist goblins, which so they could throw like sticky paste and stuff like that. And so we sticky pasted all of the doors to the cabins, and then screamed at the top of our lungs as goblins. And the majority of the people who were characters ran out, saw that they got stuck to the floors,
Everything,
the walls,
right.
the doors, and then we ran off. And we actually had Plot come out and tell us to stop at one point because we had sticky pasted the majority of the players and they couldn't go back if they were playing it.
You broke the game, which leads me directly into the horror of Gestalt. So, without Ken here, I normally he and I bounce, sort of like a pendulum. He's asking the questions and I'm just giving abject opinions. I'm going to give a little bit of opinion here. Every time that I've played in a game or ran a game where there's been Gestalt characters, Well, actually, first of all, what is a Gestalt character?
Asking me?
Yep.
In general, a Gestalt character is one where you have two different classes and you're running them side by side. So you might have a wizard with the subclass that you play and a fighter, right? Subclass.
Right.
That's the traditional Gestalt character. It's like a wizard. Now, in 5th edition with the subclasses and how they've built it out and multi-classing, I generally never play Gestalt because you can multi-class build something and it just seems a little bit too crazy with playing a Gestalt game. That's a lot of stuff. I mean,
so
you're going like
when
super
did you,
epic wizard.
Yeah, when did you jump in? When did Gestalt characters come out?
I think Gestalts have been around since 1st edition.
Oh shit, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I know
that seems like a mess.
I know they're around in 2nd. I don't even feel like grabbing the book behind me. Probably.
Oh no, show off your books, man.
See.
Dude, those books are worth money. Hell yeah!
Right.
Look at that artwork. That's badass.
Let's see if we can find where it is in here for Gestalt characters.
That's really cool.
So Gestalt characters were formalized in way back then?
I thought it was. I heard about it in 3rd ed.
Maybe
because I always thought multi-classing was when they formalized that in 3rd ed.
I think you could do. Yeah, I think it's 2nd ed when it all came out.
Megan says 2nd edition.
I haven't. We have the internet to look it up, but we obviously aren't doing it right now. So
it doesn't matter that much. Someone can correct us and we can get the engagement. That's fine.
The thing about playing Gestalt, though, and this is where it's different than multi-classing, is when you're playing Gestalt, it's a lot of bookkeeping to play, both as a player and as a DM. And 9 times out of 10, nobody wants to do that. And
unless you're one of those people that love it.
Yeah. I mean, if someone loves to do that and would want to run something like that, I would be fine running it.
Well, okay, so there's the issue of, do you have 2 character sheets?
No. A lot of times you just have the same character sheet and you just have the classes kind of side by side.
And there are rules like you take the better base attack and the better saves or something like that.
Pretty much, yeah. I recall. It's been a while since I've done one of those. And again, I think multi-classing kind of just 86 is a lot of that anyway, because if you're going to play a multi-class character, then that pretty much is the best of both worlds.
Well, and this is the issue that I always had was, and why I remember it being in 3rd edition. Granted, that's where it started. Balance. But then, like, if you wanted to do a Gestalt game, you're really not concerned about balance. You're superheroes that can then take on the epic things while you're not epic. So you could be like a 8th level character, maybe a 12th level character. And
it's interesting you mentioned that. The way that I look at any type of class is, and this is, by the way, something that is just kind of, I don't know if this is just me and Matt and a few other folks, or if this is just kind of a lot of gamers feel like this. I don't really see the classes themselves as important as the archetypes that they represent. So, a lot of times, 3rd edition was great for this. This is why I love 3rd edition the most, because you had this concept and you wanted to play this thing, right? Man, I want to be a spellcasting thief, right? Let's just say that.
Yep.
You could build it with the various multi-classes, and you could build it with the various feats and other, options. And you could have a character that fit the thematic that you were going for, regardless of what you were calling it, right? And 5e does a little bit of that as well, but it's a little harder just because 5e didn't have the extensive amount of ridiculous splat books that 3rd had. I mean, half the weight of my bookshelf behind me is 3rd edition, and it's a couple thousand pounds of just content and lore. It's amazing how much they had.
Megan and I had a friend, still do, I guess, named Randall, and this is before I actually played. I would see Randall coming to the coffee shop or wherever, and he would have one of those massive, like, tailgating style coolers that always behind him. And I was like, damn, dude, you got some drinks? No, full of gaming books. And they were all like those D&D splats and Planescape and all that crap.
Oh yeah.
Like it was legit.
That's how it used to be, man. Before we all had laptops, and now you can just buy a PDF and have all of it on one thing.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
much
some
easier.
PDFs are free. Some PDFs of tabletop role-playing games are free.
But there's a lot of good third-party content out there as well that has been producing stuff. Anything from DM's Guild, for example, or Drive-Thru. There's a ton of stuff out there for 3rd edition, 5th edition. There's, the OSR movement has just exploded.
We're going to get into all of that. Hulker, who is our sponsor tonight? This seems like a good time.
We're sponsored by a hat.
Like a bowler? A solo cup. Why do you have a solo cup?
It's a sponsor. Don't insult it.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Eric, what are you drinking today?
Just a little Earl Grey. Done the Picard.
Earl Grey.
Earl Grey tea, hot.
Do you put any? Here's some riveting content. Do you put any lemon in it, or are you more of like a milk type dude? The honey?
No, I just drink it.
Just straight up.
Black as my soul, yeah.
Black as
Same thing with coffee.
Yeah, I just drink too much coffee to drink it black. Like eventually it just starts hurting your stomach. Need a little bit of an emulsifier going on.
That's when you switch to tea.
Indeed.
Less.
I drink my green tea black.
It's fucking hardcore shit.
Yeah. Aged 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Good enough you can dye some wood with it.
That's some oolong cha. Right. Okay, so Gestalt characters. I don't want to beat a dead horse. But some of your content is like your guys' podcast. I think I saw you guys talk about Gestalt characters. Yeah?
Not yet. We're going to talk about making a Gish, like the traditional fighter warrior.
That's what it is.
Wizard fighter type thing.
Oh.
Yeah,
right. So go on, sorry.
That's coming out in a week.
All right. So tell us all about this new thing. And a lot of people that are going to listen to this, they're geeky, they're into gaming, but they're not like deep into the D&D lore. And to know what a Gish is versus a Gith Yankee versus a Gith Zerai, you kind of have to be a little bit deep in it.
You can question him using a Gish Gallop.
I'm going to shoot you in the face. Continue.
Guy in Jeopardy. I would say Gith Yankee and Gith Zerai, the only thing you need to know, they are like this Aeon Flux humanoid that the
people are too young for that, dude. They're too young for it. They're too young for it.
Look it up. All right. So imagine these angular humanoids that were screwed with by the mind flayers.
Yeah.
And they split into 2 separate cultures, right? One of them decided to chill in the astral plane and become tyrants.
Yeah, chill is maybe not the word I would use, but
how about they decided to become pirates in the astral plane, living on the corpses of dead gods, ruled by a eternal lich queen.
Casually.
Who every so often would suck out your soul if you became too powerful. Whatever. And then on the other side, the other side decided, you know what? We're not down with the tyranny, so we're going to be monks, very contemplative. But instead of, going someplace contemplative, they went to fucking limbo, where the Slod rule with their mallets and party hats, and decided to build a temple in chaos using only their minds.
No, is it limbo that they're in? I guess it is a limbo. Yeah, because they have the balance. That's right. Down
there in the deep Paisley.
So I was introduced to Planescape, which is the setting. I believe it's a 2nd ed setting.
It's correct. Yeah.
By
Monty Cook, Jeb Cook, Bruce Cordell, a bunch of other guys. Yeah.
Now a different Monty Cook, right? Than Numenera, right?
So.
No, or is it the same guy? Same guy.
Same guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys go on, sorry.
I believe the way it worked was he wrote. If I recall, if I'm remembering this correctly, he and several others worked. They created Planescape, and then It also helped with Planescape Torment, the video game, which if you've never played it, amazing.
So good.
Such classic. And then 3rd edition came out and they got rid of them. Which, by the way, if you're paying attention to what's going on with WotC now, seems a little familiar, doesn't it? It's like, oh, look, they're coming out with a new version. Let's get rid of all the authors that are writing it so we don't have to pay them anything. And then we can hire other authors that are cheap.
Now, Monty Cook, I'm pretty sure, wrote at least a couple of the 3rd edition books. The Fiend Folio, I think. That could be complete bullshit. Someone check me on that. I think how I became aware of his stuff, I'll tell you after I talk about Planescape. In Planescape, Megan and my friend, a guy named Ro, who has written for D&D, whatever, a bunch of crap. He was telling me about the Githzerai and kind of like their whole mission. What is it?
Illithids. It's pretty much the biggest mission I believe that the Githzerai have, unless there's some new lore out. Their whole thing was they hated Githyanki. They really hated the Illithids. They would make hunting parties, raids to the Prime to basically ferret out any Illithids left, and they would even put aside their differences with Githyanki to kill Illithids. Aside from that, there's not a whole lot of lore that I'm aware of about Githyanki. Then again, I haven't read every book, so.
From what I understand, there's a fortress or something. Like they went to one of the planes. I can't remember what it is. I thought it was Pandemonium. Like
well, they went to Limbo.
Like a crazy thing, and the idea was they were kind of like trying to tame it or something. Like it reminded me of this could just be a story point that Ro ran on one of his games, and it's not actually canon. But like in Star Wars, for example, not that you know anything about Star Wars.
Nothing at all about Star Wars.
I mean, nothing about Star Wars. Nothing.
What?
The idea of like a Jedi going, or like Yoda going to Dagobah, which is infused with the dark side, right?
And the side of life as well.
And the side of life. And so to test themselves. And that's kind of what I thought they were. Do they ride around on red dragons too?
No, they at one point attempted to make a pact with chaos dragons, but I think that didn't go very well. Yeah.
Tough to do.
Now they are kind of interesting in that like they followed this guy. I don't know if he's still around or not. I can't remember, but his name was Zerthamon. He was the guy, like the lead general in Gith's army when they were just the Gith.
Yeah.
And when he drug him over to Limbo, they kind of founded this monastery. They call them, I believe, followers of Zerth or Zerth.
That sounds really.
Yeah, familiar. I don't remember
that
right now.
Sounds really familiar.
I was looking at it, I would sound a lot more knowledgeable about this. But the idea is that chaos is completely random, and you can exert your will upon chaos and actually create stuff, right? So if you're hanging out in Limbo and you think about a cheese sandwich appears. Right. Delicious. And you eat it. And then you forget about it, and it turns back into elemental chaos, and now you've got a hole in your belly because it turned into magma. But if you maintain that concentration and build all kinds of stuff. And they built this entire like fortress, big city, and they've expanded out and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
So this is what I'm thinking of erroneously. That's exactly the idea of like their mental concentration. Let me topic switch again. Did you read? And I'm gonna jump into the deep end here. And it's like I don't know how to swim. Okay. Cable versus Deadpool.
Okay.
Did you read it?
If I have, it's been forever. But
all right.
I haven't read too much. Both of them.
So the idea is, what if Cable is cured, or not? Isn't cured, but he's able to overcome the technovirus. Like it has his arm going.
Then he would be the most powerful psychic in the
Marvel
universe.
And so there's this whole thing where he has this
except for Franklin Richards, but that's a different story.
Who is Franklin Richards?
The son of Reed Richards. He's like an Omega level god.
Why is it always the progeny of the X-Men are like super powered?
Because we like superheroes, and it's you gotta kind of edgelord it the more you go. Like you're never gonna have a son of an X-Men that's less powered than the father.
But it'd be way
Although that would
cooler
make
of a story.
What an awesome story would that be?
That'd be an
Like,
awesome story.
can you imagine like was it Cyclops and Jean Grey, they had a son instead of, you know, can't
That's
remember which
Cable,
one it
right?
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But can you imagine like maybe they had Cable, but maybe they had another son. We'll just call him Bill, right? Bill Summers. Bill Summers, his ability, he was great. He could make tea hot, and that's all he could do.
That's what he could do.
He could warm shit up.
Listen, dude, if I could make tea and coffee hot, this, do you know what this is? For anyone who's listening on Spotify, I'm holding up a mug. Do you know what this is? It glows.
I just want the mutant ability to clean my room. Just to have it. You know what I want? I want the 5e spell, Prestidigitation.
Dude,
That's what
fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, you do. You should take that spell every time.
You know, if you can warm up your coffee or your tea, you can also pretty effectively de-ice your car before you go to work.
Dude, the most useful ability, so kinetic energy to like excite things. I mean, it's
I'm gonna go on Gambit.
Like Gambit, boom.
Yeah,
exactly. So what is Gambit's his actual power?
He accelerates molecules until they explode. When he tosses like a card, it hits something, and then the kinetic energy releases.
Yep. Being able to do that. Holy shit! Let me bring it back down.
Traffic would be great. I would just have cars exploding everywhere. I live in Atlanta, man. There's a lot of traffic. All right,
dude. There's a lot of traffic in Atlanta. There's a lot of road rage. Hot Atlanta, similar in some ways to Los Angeles in terms of the road rage and the
more
insanity.
rain. But yeah, I've been to LA. Yeah, the road rage is real there too.
All right, to bring it back to zero. Why the Goblin's Corner? What does this name mean? What is this?
So, to go on that, I have to dive back a few months before that. The pandemic breaks out. I'm an improviser. I've been improvising for about 15 years.
Yep.
And our theater closed down during the pandemic because you can't have a live show in front of folks.
Oh, you're an actor.
Yes.
Okay, right on.
And then, so where I'm stuck doing nothing, right? And so I'm sitting with my buddy Matt one night. We're talking about stuff. Most of the time, it's probably about a game we're playing, D&D or something else. And we just kind of came up with the idea that, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if we just talked about this online? So we did a couple of like Facebook lives that we've since deleted. We thought, oh, this is a lot of fun. We got like 20, 30 people watching us and stuff. Let's just do a podcast. That sounds fun. Awesome. Everyone's doing a podcast, right? And it's not like I can go back to my theater anytime soon. In fact, it was like a year before we were able to actually, perform in public.
Did you say when this was? Was it 2020?
Yeah, about 2020, I'd say.
Okay.
2020, 2021, right around there. So the idea of, we had a lot of options, right? Live plays were big. We thought about doing live plays. We've done some live plays. In fact, I've voice acted in a couple live plays. But that's a lot of investment. That's a lot of time. And what most people don't know, if it's a good live play, it's a lot of money involved too, because you have to pay the actors. You have to have a studio. You should pay the actors. Let me put it to you that way. Unless they're friends, right? You could also, have a nice set. You have to have a place to do that. And then you have to herd cats because actors are somewhat fickle. At least everyone I've met. And we really didn't have the time to do that. We both have day jobs. And so we're like, you know what? In the evening, once a week, let's meet up. We'll talk about what we always talk about, which is like D&D and games. And most importantly, telling stories. How to tell a good story. How to teach people how to do that. Because I was reading Reddit and Twitter and everything else, and it's like, everyone's like, man, I really don't know how to make NPCs. I don't understand. Like, I'm in this situation. My players are pissed off, and X, Y, and Z, and we're like, these are easily solved. And so the Goblins Corner came about because of that. And the idea was like, would it be cool if we were just kind of sitting these two goblins in the back corner of a tavern, just dispensing wisdom like, small green Italian mobsters? And so that's how it came about. And the name kind of stuck.
I'm going through your podcast episode list here, and it seems like you're covering the whole gamut of D&D lore and angles for playing a character. I see you got one about how to DM a volcanic encounter.
That's right. So
we need to know about that.
But okay.
Well, terrain is a big thing. And one of the things when we were starting this podcast, we're like, you know what? No one ever talks about, like, I don't know, the difference between you're playing a game on the plains or in the mountains or in a forest. And so we have a kind of an ongoing terrain series, a whole playlist for it. But volcanoes is one of my favorites because it's the traditional red dragon in a volcanic caldera.
I see.
How do you play that? How do you set that up from a gaming perspective? What are some things to think about? What kind of monsters? What's the ecology? Remember, this is a magical world, so anything goes. How do you set that up? You want to kind of have some logic. In improv, we say, if that was true, what else is true? So what else is true about, all right, there's a dragon that's in the volcano. Cool. The dragon's got to eat. What's he eating? Right? Is he raiding the surrounding countryside? He can't eat magma. So there might be a whole ecosystem that lives in a volcano. Which there is, by the way. There's fire elementals, and there's dwarves slowly cooking.
As dwarves.
As dwarves, yeah, because dwarves do what dwarves do, digging deep.
They could probably chill out in a hot spring.
Yeah.
If that is true, what else
looking for
is
Balrogs?
Very good. Very, very good idea. I mean, you can apply that to a lot of things. I mean, so you have an entire podcast episode about this. I don't want to. I mean, obviously, people can go listen to that, and you can get deep down into it. But I am interested. How do you approach that? It doesn't have to be a volcano scenario, but yeah. How does one approach this, and how do you come about your views on it? Are you just shooting from the hip, or is it from experience, or what?
A little bit of both. When you're thinking about a piece of terrain, a lot of times it's because you've added that into your game world, if you're homebrewing something, or you're adding it to your story. And, again, everything that we talk about in our show comes back to telling stories because it's collaborative storytelling. It's you and your players playing pretend, making shit up.
Collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
What a word.
It is. It's collaborative, man. We make it together. And what a wonderful game that is, right? This is the only type of game you can do that whatever anybody says is real. And that's kind of fun. So when you're thinking about different terrain, you have to consider a lot of stuff, right? As a storyteller, DM, GM, whatever it is, where is this terrain in relation to what the characters are doing? Sometimes it's, location via plot, right? It doesn't have to be like something fixed and, you don't have to make a map for it. They could just encounter this area, but it needs to have some kind of element. And then what we generally try to do is talk to people about what is interesting in the area, and then what are some story arcs that might be kind of fun. So
go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so for example, what was something that we did? What if there was an artifact buried in a volcano, right? Just talking about volcanoes here.
Okay.
And something that was resistant to fire picked it up, found it. Cool. Instant story, right? That could be the big bad artifact that kills the world. Okay, now you've got a setting. Now you have a reason for your players to be there. And what can you throw at them? Well, there's all kinds of fun stuff in volcanoes, man. You get some fire elementals. You could get some, remorse. Earth elementals, yeah. You could have rock slides. You could have just the situation itself. Don't even need monsters, man. Just climbing a volcano. There's toxic gas.
Oh yeah.
There's lava. Shit's terrible, man.
Turns out there's lava.
Yeah, turns out lava happens.
So this leads into the world building. And these are conversations that you and Matt, your co-host, have on the reg. These
Pretty much,
kinds of yeah. Are you both DMs?
Yes. We've professionally DM'd for several years. We've been DMs for a long, long time, and it's something that we find is interesting, but also something that, with the knowledge that we have, we like to help other people who are starting out trying to DM and trying to play.
So what is a professional DM?
Just someone who makes money DMing a game.
Okay. So
that's literally all it is. Yeah, I've done it for like corporate events and stuff like that, where I've had like a 30-person table. I've done it at conventions and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's some Guy Gaxian D&D right there, baby.
It's not as impressive as it sounds. There's a lot. But it is. And there's a lot of people who do it on the side.
No, it's impressive. It's impressive that that's a gig that you have. Okay, that is impressive. But like, I have a philosophy that no matter how crazy or ridiculous something that you might think that someone is doing, if they're getting paid for it, if they've actually convinced other people that, hey, this is something that's worth, doing professionally, it's not ridiculous. So,
fair point.
Where can people get your sweet DM services?
Not much right now. Generally, most people contact us through our site. Although I was on Let's Play briefly. Right now, the podcast has kind of taken over a lot of that time for me.
Yeah,
and so
I feel that.
Yeah. And we're also in the process of writing a couple of books. So once that gets out, I think we'll probably get back more into more pro DMing. But for the moment, we're just kind of taking a hiatus for it.
All right. So for pro DMing, if people are interested, then they can go to your site and talk to you, and you can converse that way. And I'm assuming Matt is also a pro DM.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about your books, but that seems like it's going to be a big conversation. So previous to that conversation, pro DMing, I have had a problem with it. Okay, so I have GM'd, DM'd, I've arbited, if you want to go DreadLore. But it's usually for friends. Even if it's for people that I don't know, there's a stigma of, what is this worth? It's a lot of time. A lot of time, a lot of energy. You say that you do improv. I'm going to guess. I'm going to take a stab in the darkness. I'm going to use Magic Missile against the darkness and say that you might be a DM that doesn't have to plan everything out.
You would be correct.
And that's a lot of energy, right?
Well, not necessarily. And a lot of there's this kind of this stigma where people think, oh, I'm either a railroad conductor where I have everything written out, or I'm a fly at the seat of my pants where I have literally nothing planned out. Now, have I played games or run games where I literally came up with something on the fly? Absolutely, many times. But what works best oftentimes is to have an idea or a series of ideas, even just like a bullet point, so that you can riff off the cuff.
Right.
Because you do want some logical progression in a story. And so when I do DM, and obviously when I pro DM, I put a little bit more homework into it as well, because we want to have some semblance of a story. And if you're writing a module, then that's another example.
Yeah, you
where
have to.
You kind of have to do that. But you also have to understand, in terms of improv, players are never going to do exactly what you want them to do.
What the fuck are you talking about?
They never go directly into the dungeon. They always go to the bar first. You could force them.
There's a volcano. There's all kinds of artifacts and shit in it. Cool. We don't go there.
Yeah. So, I would say, like, in terms of just coming up with stuff off the fly, I usually have like a bullet point list of some things, what I consider to be like possible scenarios, right? So I know what the characters are doing. At least after like the first game session or so. You usually, get your sea legs after the first game to see how people interact and how they play. And if you do a good session 0, that comes across very easily, particularly if you're doing it with a random.
This is pro DMing, right? As in these are,
or even just regular DMing. I've DM'd for free for in fact one of my best games that I just recently finished a couple months ago was a Calamshan game, which is if you're unfamiliar, that's in the Forgotten Realms.
Nothing. Oh, okay.
It's down south in the Forgotten Realms, and we did an intrigue campaign, 5th edition, and they literally it was a bunch of randos that I'd never met before, and we played for about a year.
Whoa! And in person or remote?
On Discord, on Roll20.
Yeah.
Never met him in my life, and now they're awesome, right? I know them; they're good friends.
For some, that's a point in and of itself. Collaborative storytelling, making friends. For people who don't know what a Forgotten Realms is, Eric?
It's the game world that Ed Greenwood originally invented for his campaign, and kind of the de facto 5th edition game world since.
They let you know in the DMG about every other paragraph.
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate.
It's from the Forgotten Realms.
Neverwinter's Night.
Also Forgotten Realms.
The fucking D&D movie. The good one.
That was in Icewind Dale.
Right, because they talk about Castle Neverwinter, right?
Yeah. Well, and they were in the frozen north in Icewind Dale, and then they went south.
So in the D&D movie, that world in the south is where, what is this place called?
The Forgotten Realms?
No.
Oh, you're talking about Calamshan?
Calamshan.
Calamshan's in the Calam Desert. The reason it was created was because two great spirits, one of air, one of fire. It was Calam, Genie Calam, and the Efreet Memnon.
So and they got bound to
a gem. Yeah, they got bound to this mystical gem, and then it was buried beneath the sand. Their eternal struggles created the desert.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Yeah. It's kind of like in the real world, God got bored. So, professionally DMing, how do you guys... That was funny. Come on. I'm hilarious. How do you convince people to pay you for this? I mean, I think you should get paid for it, but how do you convince people to pay you for it?
I ask myself that every day when I do it. I mean, it's the same way that I've done improv classes for businesses and stuff as well. So it's just really, how do you market yourself as a person, as a creative? Idea. Well, this is what you ask yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then just you kind of have either a slide deck, or you come up with a little bit of a blurb. Sometimes you do them at local gatherings. So I've done them at bars before in Atlanta.
What is a slide deck?
It's like like a little presentation where you.
Shit!
Here's who I am. How you can get in touch with me, right?
Oh, okay. Like a little. It sounds like you went to school, or had a mentor, or perhaps were just precocious enough to know how to business. Tell us.
Well, my day job, I am a designer, and I ran for a long time. I work for a large megacorp right now, but I ran a design agency for several years. So a lot of this, I guess, the business acumen is from that.
Okay. I'm gonna dig deeper. What? Continue, please.
I'm waiting on you.
Yeah. How? So I literally don't know what a slide deck is. I know about business cards. I know the idea of an elevator pitch.
It's essentially just a series of like slides, like a PowerPoint of.
Like a PowerPoint.
Yeah, just showcasing your skills and stuff like that.
Is this something like you would go to a networking event and do that, or
would
you just like bust it out? You're like, hey, check it out, dude. On my phone.
I'll tell you how I got into doing pro DMing stuff. I was working at my theater, and we would oftentimes do improv for businesses and stuff like that. And we did a show for one of our clients, and afterwards we were just kind of sitting around hanging out with everybody, and then we were laughing and stuff. And somebody mentioned D&D, and I of course jumped in because I had to. Started talking about stuff, and they were like, "Oh, cool. You play games?" Like, yeah. It's like, would be great is it's a great team building exercise. and kind of sold those guys on it. And then after that, it was just a little bit of word of mouth. But you can also, there's a lot of people who do pro DMing where there's websites where you can literally have other players sign up and charge. So Let's Play is one of them.
Let's
if you
Play,
do it
right?
Yeah, do it without that. You can just put it up on like a personal site, and you could do it through other groups, right? Business groups and stuff like that. I understand some people do it on LinkedIn, although that seems just beyond the pale for me. But
yeah, it's a little dubious.
Yeah,
check out my LinkedIn. I mean, are we talking like corporate people, right? Like they're in suits and shit, and they're like
not
playing
necessarily
rogue.
not necessarily in suits, but definitely like in a corporate office. You would be surprised how many people in business are interested in doing role playing and stuff like that. It's the same type of people that would go out into the woods and do the trust falls and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
It's all team building stuff.
dude.
And
A good trust fall will get me every time.
And the thing is that a lot of people now in businesses are, Gen Z millennials, and they're down with it, right? Some of the older folks wouldn't do it, but like now being a nerd, being a gamer is kind of
the norm.
It's kind of the norm now, which is nice.
Normal. Ugh. Is that a Tyrannosaurus Rex breathing fire behind you?
Certainly is. And there's a cat
Badass.
on top of it.
Oh, that's bad. With a crossbow?
He's got a machine gun.
It's a machine gun. Everybody sees it but me. Great.
Welcome to the internet.
That's awesome. That reminds me of the 3rd edition epic level handbook. There's a little bar at the bottom. You know what I'm talking about? And it talks about like, hey, when you get to this point in the game, understand the ridiculous nature of the encounters you're going to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of ridiculous stuff on our I'm just looking back and forth. I've got a whole bunch of weird stuff here. I did a lot of miniatures and stuff during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm an artist, so like crafted like houses and miniatures and stuff like that.
Is that the Dwarven Forge stuff, or is it just something you made?
I made that out of foam.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like that looks like something you put in the Warhammer campaign.
Do you do the Warhammer?
We have not done the Warhammer.
Good.
Although I would love to get into that.
Fucking Warhammer. Warhammer 40K, the lore is awesome. But I'm gonna not bitch about it. What is that fucking...
I've had some fun experiences with Warhammer.
Well, everybody's had some fun experiences with Warhammer.
I've been like,
come on, Hulker.
I've been kind of binging on the lore lately with Warhammer on YouTube, and I gotta tell you,
good. It's
great. It just depresses me.
Well,
because
it's what
the Imperium of Man is just. I mean, everybody is just shit on in these hive cities. It's like
they're literally all men.
eat your corpse starch. Come on,
dude. So Grimdark, I'm pretty sure was coined by Warhammer 40K.
Interesting.
Pretty sure. What the fuck is that book with Kylo Ren on it?
The Star Wars Force Awakens Visual Dictionary.
The Force Awakens. All right. So we can. I have a feeling that.
Hey, look, it was a gift. All right.
It was a gift. I mean, look, Kylo Ren looks cool, and The Force Awakens is okay. We're going to talk about Star Wars here in a second. All right. Let me tell Ken. Looks like the Nocturne House. Indeed. So Ken and I made a short film. I'm an actor as well. And it's called Nocturne. It will be released pretty soon on festivals, and that looks like the location. Your hut thing. Is it a log cabin or is it stone?
A wood house here that
I mean, that's cool.
This is actually I give you 2 guesses of what this is made out of.
Oh, you said foam.
It is foam, but what's the base? What do you think the base is?
The base of the house, like the foundation?
The box that it's made from.
They're not toothpicks. What are they called? The tongue depressors. Popsicle sticks.
Nope, it was a Pop-Tart box.
Good.
This is just by the way, this is just the pink foam insulation that I cut up and then textured.
Yeah. That looks great. Do you sell that stuff?
No. I probably should at some point.
Why don't you? So I guess it takes a lot of time to do.
This took a little while. The other ones didn't take as long. Got a bunch of weird stuff on here. All these big dice, by the way, are just from conventions. I get this is Keith Baker's signature on my dice.
That's awesome. Big old dice. Look at them D&D dice.
This green slime was made from hot glue, I think.
As it should be.
As it should be.
I mean, I won't disparage you for loving on the D&D. I have a whole thing about D20. All right, Bill's favorite film to hate. It's true. I do kind of hate Star Wars now. We're going to get into it. We'll do a little bit of chat. Hey, Ken, we're going to go on a break in about 2 minutes because at least I have to pee. And we need some water. Got to make another old fashioned. It's going to be hilarious and awesome and great. Megan says, I remember when you could get beaten up for liking role-playing, anime, and LARPing. Have you ever had that kind of experience?
Thankfully, not myself, but I've had a lot of people who have gone through that. And you know, like, I don't know anybody who hasn't gone through like bullying as a kid. And certainly I was bullied as a kid. You just learn to either deal with it or be meaner.
Right. I was not bullied as a kid.
You are very lucky.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just ran really well. Like I just got away.
My problem is I had a really big mouth. So I would say literally what's on my mind. And oftentimes that equated to a fist in my face. Probably deserved it sometimes.
But you said what you meant.
Time.
And took it. Yeah, there we go.
Like Lucky Strike cigarettes. I'm unfiltered.
Right. Ken, are you cool doing I'm talking to him through chat. Are you cool doing a break? Ken, break now. Yes? Yes? We'll see.
I have a real genius comment, but I don't think anybody would get it.
Do it. Dude, Val Kilmer.
This is God, Ken.
Nope, straight up punched and kicked. Yeah, I had no filter. That's what Megan says.
I feel for you too, Megan. I get it. I've been there.
We're already back? Wow. I don't know. I
So,
kind of like this maybe more. Boom. We just appeared. Goblinscorner.com. Guest tonight, Eric Holden. Fuck yeah,
Goblinscorner.com.
This actually looks pretty good. All right. Now that I have fashioned my old-fashioned. What were we talking about?
We were talking about drinks in Dragon Con.
Dragon Con. Okay, first time I went to Dragon Con, 2009, with a friend of mine named Trish, and she did cosplay as Groot.
Oh, that's
that may have been
sick.
one afterwards, but I'm pretty sure it was Groot in the plant, like the plant form. And she was, is his name something Hogan? Is it Bill Hogan, who was Colonel Ty? Is that who it was? Damn. I want to find out his name really quick. Actor Colonel Ty. He had a, well, that's wrong. Where are you, sir? Michael Hogan.
Michael Hogan.
Anyway, 2009, that's when BSG, the new Battlestar Galactica, I'm pretty sure that was the last season or when it was really big on Dragon Con. We went. She was real tight with Michael Hogan. He actually went through a pretty big like health ordeal. I don't know how he's doing right now. Anyway, Dragon Con was awesome. Second time I went with the co-creator of DreadLore, dude named Ben. And we had a very good time. And I think I went a third time. And it was really good, but it was very, very different from 2009. Okay, so all of that is 10 years ago. When's the last time you went, and what is Dragon Con like now?
Well, we were there last year. We'll be there this year as well. I mean, we try to go every year. It's gotten kind of crazy lately, and the biggest reason is because there's like 80,000 people hanging out in the city.
See, when I was there, it was like 50 or 60.
Sucking up 4 hotels at this point. Now the good news is that Matt and I both live close enough that we can literally hop on an Uber and roll up there.
Right.
But if you can't, for those of you who've never been to Atlanta, the city is not really great for walking, and it's not really great for just being anywhere except like where you're supposed to be. And so you got to have a hotel room, and those are astronomically expensive these days.
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta's good for like
for a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
for drinks.
Yeah, really. Yeah, like what?
We got great barbecue. Our cheese dip is number 1.
I mean, you have the barbecue. You have the barbecue of the South, right? Do you have a specific like Jiaojin barbecue? Is there an Atlanta barbecue?
There's Fox Brothers, which is really good barbecue. If you like deep fried jalapeno peppers with cream cheese and pulled pork.
I mean, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
We've got our I think our barbecue is what is I'm not a barbecue expert, by the way. I just like to eat, but I believe it's wet barbecue is
wet barbecue.
Yeah. So all right, I had an argument with a Texan, by the way, about this because apparently in Texas, when you say, "Hey, do you want to go to a barbecue?" they mean brisket. Only brisket.
I see.
Whereas if you ask someone in Atlanta, do you want to go to a barbecue? Yeah, what do you want me to bring? Chips, dip, whatever. Like barbecue for us is word for party.
Indeed. Well, I was going to say, so in Kentucky, which is where I have been rumored to be from, it's the same thing. That might be a South thing. I mean, you could say that Texas is the South, but Texas is Texas.
Texas is Texas.
Texas is
South,
Texas.
though. A little bit southern, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like saying Florida is South, and it's technically the most South, but I would not consider Florida the South. Like when I go to Florida, which is not often.
Depends on where in Florida. So,
like where?
If you're looking Gulf, it's still kind of the South. Like it's sort of Alabama-ish, but if you go further down the actual like head of Florida, then no, it becomes New Jersey for retired people.
Yeah, man. Florida. I know there's some cool places in Florida. Honestly, I'm just going to offend all sides here. I kind of feel like what I have experienced of Los Angeles, kind of like Florida. It's kind of like Florida. Not as humid. Fucking palm trees, strip malls. It's weird traffic, weird roads. Kind of the same thing. People are like, oh, what's Pasadena like? And I'm like, yeah, it's Florida. Imagine you're at a mall in Florida. That's pretty much it.
Very dusty in LA. That's one thing I noticed. Was all the dust.
Now, when were you there or here?
Last year.
Oh, I mean, what time of year?
During September, I believe.
Well, I was here in September. I have not experienced the proper spring or the beginning of the summer. And I know it was like El Nino or something this year, so it's totally different weather. I didn't notice it being dusty per se. Then again, I had just come from the desert. So, you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, this is great. It's like green shit and coffee. I love it.
Came out of the dusty trails and tumbleweeds and landed into the LA.
We went through the Mojave. Not the Mojave. The Mojave. We saw it. We saw Death Valley, driving there forth. It was like 102 degrees, which apparently is not hot on the road. And there's a gas station there. I unfortunately can't remember the name of the town, but it's something like it's not last checkpoint, but it's something along those lines. Like oh no, or not the desert, whatever. We hit this gas station, my brother and I, and there were all of these Native Americans, because there's a bunch of reservations and such around there. The nicest, coolest fucking people, period. Super chill, very, very kind, and all these things. And we rolled up and was like, all right, so we're going into the desert. We are not accustomed to this. Is there something we should know? Because when we look on the map, it's just brown. Yeah, it's brown. What do we do? And the woman goes, I can't do the accent. It's a really clear accent in English. But she was like, do you have water? Just like you said. We're like, yeah. She goes, bring more.
Yeah, bring more than you need. Bring sunscreen.
Oh, shit. And we're like, right on. So more water. Get the water. So he gets the water. Anything else? Do you have gasoline? Yes. Get more. Okay, get the gasoline. So we get the thing, and fill it up, whatever. Anything else? Because we gotta go. And she says, respect the desert. I was like, okay. Boom, rolled through.
Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, don't be an asshole. We're rolling through on the highway, killing it. AC blaring. We're sweating profusely, right?
But it's a dry heat, so you're fine, right?
It's a dry heat.
It's not like Atlanta where it's 80 degrees and 80% humidity.
Fair enough. No one likes Atlanta. So we're rolling.
Big swamp.
We're rolling through. We look off to the right, which I think was north, and we see the real desert. And it is this miasma of heat and death. And yeah, that was the desert, man. It was no joke. Pulled off, little oasis, got some beers, drank underneath a palm tree, and realized we were going to Los Angeles. So Los Angeles wasn't really that dusty for us. We just come out of the desert.
I took a trip several years ago to drove up Nevada and into Arizona in an RV. We were going to the Grand Canyon, and I got to see a lot of desert during that time. It was interesting, very hot.
Yeah,
I learned a lot about driving an RV, that I realized that the van life is not for me. I would much rather be in a tent and not in an RV, or in a hotel. Either of those. Being in a cramped, sweaty, swampy vehicle is not fun.
Yeah, as Megan says, bog people are no joke. This is true. DJ No Fly, drive at night. Truth. The thing about driving at night is, we were awake in the day, so we were like, what are we gonna do? We need to get through this shit.
That's when you get abducted in the desert.
At night?
Yeah, that's when all the UFOs come out, right? They don't abduct anybody in the daytime. Really want to be driving and have a close encounter with the third kind?
Dude, I would do it. All right, professional DM we've talked about. Let's play. Your book. You have a book coming out. Tell us about it.
It's called Ludicrous Bestiary, and it is many of the monsters that we have talked about over the years. We are coming out with a monster book. It'll be originally for 5th edition, and we're also going to adapt it for Cypher System and several other.
The Cypher System.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. We talked about Money Cook. Go on.
Good old Money Cook. So they're all ridiculous monsters. Some of them are really terrifying, like a massive flying sea cucumber that spits out kraken.
Can you say that again?
A massive flying sea cucumber with wings.
Okay.
That spits out kraken.
I think you said an ass of.
Oh.
Continue.
We also have things like a cat that turns you to stone.
And that's all cats.
All cat. Well, this one, if it shows you its butt, it shows you the star shape in it. Oh, mineral links.
Is it a normal? Is it
ludicrous for a reason, by the way? So Matt and I love making monsters. We come up with just ridiculous. Feel free to look at our playlist of creatures, and we're putting them to book.
Yeah. Now, how are you doing the art?
Drawing it. I'm a professional artist. Yeah, I'm an artist by trade. So I'm not a great illustrator, but I am a whiz at Photoshop, so I'll figure something out. And then
right on.
We thought about maybe running a Kickstarter once we get maybe one out and see if we can drum up some interest for an illustrator to help out. But we're still kind of small right now, and figure get this book out. We've got a couple other ones planned as well. We've got an NPC book planned as well.
Yeah. That is a good resource, especially setting specific and all that kind of stuff.
NPCs are so easy to make, but hard to make right in many cases.
Like you can make an NPC that no one likes, but they should like, and then when they kill them,
that's a plot point. There you go. Now you can't do that. Now his brother comes for revenge.
That's right. That's right.
Bring him up.
So how do you go about? How do you go about making the NPCs? How are you going about? Tell me all about your books.
How are we making the NPCs?
Yeah.
Most of them are being mainlined directly from our brains, our collective ideas.
Using 5th edition rules.
Yeah, we're gonna do several different editions, but unfortunately, it is what it is with 5e. That's what most people play, and so that's what we've had people ask for predominantly. But
I mean,
there's
having
also a lot of
people
interest
ask is great.
Yeah, always a good thing, right? We're here to help people out. In terms of like how we're making them, Matt literally has a binder that he just writes ideas when he's at work.
Whoa.
And so it's just putting it down, getting some illustrations to faces, getting some interesting story quirks along with a little bit of history behind the NPCs. And then it's really just a matter of like, how much do we actually want to put down?
Are you both programmers?
No.
No.
Not at all.
What is the day job?
My day job is I'm a designer. I'm a user experience designer specifically.
Well, UX UI is close to. I mean, it's on the.
It's
Are you
like
dealing with apps and shit?
Yeah, I as I mentioned, I work for a monolithic corporation, making a lot of.
Do you use Swift?
No, I do not program. I design in Figma or XD.
Okay, Figma. Yeah.
Where I also manage others that design.
Right on. Well, I wouldn't call Swift particularly programming. Sick burn. I mean, I've been using VBA lately. I've noticed, seems a lot of gamers are also into the tech field.
That seems pretty straightforward, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, you could say nature versus nurture on that. It's most creatives tend to play games, and most people who are highly analytical, like programmers, or tend to be highly analytical, generally like to play games because a lot of games are either developed by them or they're, the same kind of mentality tends to float together very well.
So the connotation of a gamer is generally like, think of a Mr. Potato Head with a neck beard. And the connotation of the stereotype, I should say, of a programmer, of which I am, is a white dude who like doesn't he just really likes to hear their own voice, which might also be true. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it seems that a lot of gamers, which are every kind of person, right? They still have a tech basis. I mean, this is the complete off the wall, I've been drinking too old fashions thought. There's no evidence whatsoever in this. But does any of that ring true, and why? It seems, yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's break that down then. So traditionally, if you were a gamer, you either were a console gamer or you had to build your own PC.
Right.
And most of the time, if you were really into gaming, we're not talking about Twitch streamers or anything like that, but if you were really into gaming, then you probably built your own PC or you bought a PC.
Yeah,
so there's some technical proficiency that comes along with being a gamer, unless you're an Xbox kid, right? In which case you can scream into the void at a 12-year-old. Cool, good for you. But most gamers, have some kind of technical proficiency. You know what? Even with an Xbox, you got to know how to when it screws up, you got to know how to fix it, right?
So you're a mouse and keyboard guy, I see.
Well, yeah, I like my Twitch game. Although I did recently buy updated and bought a new PlayStation to play Cyberpunk 2027 because I didn't feel like building a system to play it, and particularly since everything I read on Reddit, it played like dog shit on a PC anyway. So I was like, well, I'll just spend a few $100 and play it on a PlayStation.
As a side note, my girlfriend, who is a millennial as well, just a little bit younger of millennial, was like, "Oh yeah, I just got a present for myself." I was like, "Oh, what was it?" She said, "A fucking Nintendo 64." And I was like, "What? Why do you got an N64, dude?" And she was like, "GoldenEye." I was like, "Oh shit!" So we threw down some GoldenEye. GoldenEye sucks, y'all. Like, I don't know if you've played it in a while, but like you're like, "Fuck, this is hard." And it's when it's in that first person shooter era where you could have every weapon. Like, you couldn't have just two. There's no realism. You could have like, the Kalashnikov, the fucking rocket launcher, the knife, the whatever, the club. Anyway, aside finished. Ken says done both, no Xbox. Yeah. What was your last console?
For me, the last console was a PS2.
Ooh.
No, PS3. It was a PS3.
PS3. So
yeah,
PS3.
I skipped the PS4, and then after that, if I wanted to play games, I built a gaming rig and just played whatever the hell I wanted.
So you are a video gamer. Yes.
Hmm?
As well as a tabletop role player gamer. Yes.
Now I do look for slightly different things in my games when I play like a video game versus a tabletop game.
Okay.
Generally, well, I generally look at video games much like I look at television, escapism. So I don't generally watch, like, my wife will watch all of these really gritty crime dramas. I don't care about any of that stuff because I don't want to be disturbed by something that's too close to real life. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here watching some ridiculous shonen anime, that's off the chain, like some JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Fairy Tail. because I want to be entertained, right? So
Right.
for video games, it's the same way. I want some kind of ridiculous, crazy stuff that I'm playing. So I'll play either just a fun, like I played the hell out of Skyrim because
Okay, yeah. This is the
not based
Elder
on
Scrolls,
reality.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Skyrim
Okay.
was great. I played every single module that it came with and DLC. I like Cyberpunk because I can spend an hour or two playing it and then I can put it down. Because as you're well aware, when you're doing a podcast, a weekly podcast or weekly show, guess what? You don't have as much time as you thought you did. Plus, I'm a homeowner and my house is constantly falling apart around me.
Yes,
A
indeed.
1950s house, so I have to also fix things.
Well, it's that acidic Atlanta air.
Smog in Atlanta, I wouldn't be surprised. Or the water.
Or the water. It's the kudzu, man. Jesus. Fucking smells like kudzu in Atlanta. Georgia. Pretty much all of Georgia.
Wait until, you should come for pollen season someday.
No.
Have you ever seen pictures of pollen season? It
No, I have
starts
not.
around March, April, May, right in springtime. And you literally can see it fall.
Descending.
Dust. Oh, yeah. It's awesome. If you don't have allergies, you will by the end of pollen season.
I used to live in Savannah, which I don't really consider a part of Georgia.
Home of SCAD and vampires.
Yeah, dude. Scared. Like, so you've been there?
Once or twice, yes.
Yeah.
I actually went to a vampire party there once.
Really? Like
Yes.
a vampire LARP or a vampire party?
They thought they were vampires, but we went down there I went down there with my friends just to see what it was like. It was like a goth club type thing, but
Eric, I think we need more information. Tell us.
So I'm just gonna name who it was, but
Yeah, tell us everyone's fucking name. I want their socials.
I was invited to go to a party with some friends of mine that I had known online, and by the way, this is something that I think the Gen Z generation doesn't get too much of. Is you should have friends that you know online, and you have some friends that you know in person. But the people that you know online, 9 times out of 10, you probably should never meet them in real life. It's be weird, right? You got to really vet these people, guys.
Sure.
So this was a little bit before that, right? This is in the MySpace time.
That's about when I was in Savannah, 2003, 4, 5.
Okay, yeah. So that was about right around then. And I
Holy shit, was I at this party? Go on.
I don't know. I got invited to go down. It happened to be one of the individuals was part of a coven. Oh, this sounds really interesting. So I called my buddy up. I was like, "You want to go hang out with some vampires?"
Hang out.
Yeah, let's go. So we did. Drove down to Savannah, hung out for the weekend with a bunch of vampires. It was great.
No, we need more.
A bunch of goth clubs.
Continue.
I mean, they thought. I don't know if they really were, or they just thought they were, or it was like a some sort of sorceress society or something like that. But it was a delight. Had a great time.
Did they do what normal vampire LARPs do and meet during the day?
They met in the evening at sundown.
Okay.
And we hung out and drank. We got to sit on the beach.
What'd you drink? Blood.
I drank gin and tonics.
Oh.
I didn't drink any blood. Sorry.
I mean,
shut you down about that. Yeah.
I'm
not saying I wouldn't do it if I, depends on how hammered I was at the time. I probably would have tried it, but not really.
So you went to that island. I forget the name of the island. It's the island that they all go to. Not the vampires. Everyone.
I don't remember what it was.
Because it's not in Savannah. It's
Tybee?
It's Tybee. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you go to Tybee, and they got the weird fucking cross currents that you're not supposed to get. The riptides. Okay. Tybee Island. They hung out on the beach. I mean, how did you know they were vampires?
I didn't. They said they were, and I just assumed. Look, hey, I'm not here to judge. If you want to say that you're a vampire.
They introduced themselves. Oh, they had fangs. All right, I need details. Tell me details.
They had implants, but it was
implants.
It was this whole social thing. Yeah, there's all kinds of fun people who are into strange and unusual things. And this
did they have like
that?
Were the fangs on their canines, or were they the weird vampires that had them like closer to their front teeth?
No, they had them on their canines.
And they wore them, or they literally had implants.
I don't know if they were implants or whether they wore them or not, but
what?
Yeah,
Actually
they're
sounds pretty
delightful to
cool.
hang out with, though. I tell you this, you think, oh wait, they're not going to bite me or something. No, they just wanted to hang out. I don't know why they thought I was part of this, but I wasn't.
Now,
But hey,
now I will say that was literally 20 years ago. Have you not gone back?
I haven't, and I've often wondered if they've aged well.
No.
First off, no,
I mean, they don't age. The vampires.
Theoretically, if they were real vampires, if they're fake vampires, or if they're just like, what is it, some sort of like fetish or something like that, then it might have been, they're just regular people.
Vampires that Megan, help. Megan, do you know, surely, because Los Angeles is like the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. There's everything here. Literally everything here. And that's actually something that's really cool about Los Angeles. And Megan knows everything. So Megan, where are the vampires? Megan says, I've been told that I don't age. You basically don't age. I hadn't seen Megan this is totally off topic. I hadn't seen Megan for 10 years. We kept in touch. Hadn't seen her. Roll downtown. It wasn't downtown. It was Hollywood, which I don't think is downtown. It's not downtown. Anyway, roll
There's
downtown.
There's got to be some vampires in Hollywood.
There's got to be some fucking Hollywood vampires.
Certainly some goths, nothing else.
There's definitely goths. A place called Bordners, which is, I don't even know what that means. Anyway, Megan rolls up and I'm like, you look exactly the same. What the fuck? Yeah. Anyway, she might be a vampire.
Yeah, or she moisturizes.
Okay. So, Xbox video gamers versus TTRPGers. This is actually a conversation I would love to have. So I don't know a lot about video games. The last video game that I played. What was the last video game you played?
Probably God of War Ragnarok.
Okay. What is that? That's a PC
It's the
game,
God
right?
of War. Yeah, it's like the God of War series. So this guy Kratos, he's a Greek. He kills a bunch of gods. You really don't need to know anything else about it. He's eternally pissed off, and he eventually kills Mars because Mars killed his family. Yeah, well, or tricked him into killing his family. But he goes to the north and hangs out with a bunch of Vikings. So that's kind of how, as you do. And he has a son who's half god.
As you do. Yeah.
Like you do, yeah. And so it's just playing as that. It's fun. It's kind of frivolous, ridiculous violence.
I think that I used the soundtrack for the first one for a long time in my D&D games. It was like Queen of Hell or something was one of my favorite tracks that I just... What's the word I'm looking for? There's an adverb, enter adverb used a lot. Didn't stream it because, you get the content strike. Okay. That's the last video game you played, God of War, Ragnarok. So my last video game that I actually played that I can remember was Castlevania 3 for the NES. Which, by the way...
That Symphony of the Night?
No.
That was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Castlevania 3 was that Trevor Belmont?
It was God damn. Okay.
I might have played that game as well.
And you're right. Go for it.
Complete railroading side idea. I don't know if you've seen the Castlevania cartoon. Fucking fire.
We're on. You take the words from my mind. I needn't speak again.
Written by Warren Ellis, by the way, that first season. Warren Ellis is a great comic book author.
So you're stealing my thunder, Eric.
I'm sorry. He's also kind of a shitty person, by the way. I heard a lot about him, but he's still...
Tell me about it.
Well.
Tell us about it. What's his name again?
Warren Ellis.
Damn him. What'd he do?
He was an asshole to people.
Oh.
Pretty much. He was
like just an asshole, or?
Yeah, I don't know the full specs of it. I think he was abusive or something to other people. I do know that he wrote Transmetropolitan, which is an amazing homage to Hunter S. Thompson, which, by the way, I have cosplayed as.
Okay.
DragonCon as. Yeah, I was Spider Jerusalem.
I can see it. Do you have the glasses handy?
Yeah, not with me, but
Dude.
have them somewhere.
So Megan and our old acquaintance, we shall call it, introduced me to. I called him D. She'll know who I'm talking about. Introduced me to both of those people, Hunter S. Thompson, as well as Transmetropolitan.
Hunter S. Thompson, by the
Awesome.
way, very gonzo journalist.
He is the Gonzo journalist.
Was the Gonzo journalist.
Yeah, what was the actual character's name? Do you remember?
Or
I don't. Yeah, like the actual, like it was the impersonation of him. I thought it had a name. It wasn't Gonzo.
Oh, I don't remember what he called himself when he was doing his things. I've read a lot of his, I've read like Fear and Loathing and the Rum Diaries and stuff like that. But yes, he is from Kentucky. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ken has talked about this quite a bit. When he is on, he's usually chatting about Gonzo journalism and that kind of get into the visceral journalism. Anyway, where the fuck was I? Wow, great.
We're talking
stream.
about games.
Talking about games. Talking about video gamers and TTRPGers. The last game I played was Castlevania 3. I beat it. I beat it with Sypha. It's the mage.
Hmm.
And in the NES version, so the 8-bit version, you don't actually know that Sypha is a woman. Like it never explicitly says it.
It's like the big reveal when Samus takes off the helmet and
no, there is no
her hair. Oh, you just know that you just think Sypha's a person.
When she gets hurt, she goes, and you're like, oh, she's a mage, or it's a mage. Like you don't know. Anyway, I fucking defeated that game. My point of saying this is video games are not my strong suit. TTRPGs, far more into it. It seems as though there are people, of course you can have people that do both, of course. But it seems like people do one more or they do the other more. Your thoughts?
I would agree with that. I think most people, well, there's two types of people. Video games are mostly designed to be entertained. So they're not, I consider them to be brain candy, right? Much like TV. Whereas storytelling, which is what all TTRPGs are, is active, like a participating art.
Right.
And so, sometimes you're in the mood to be entertained. Sometimes you're in the mood to create something. I liken DMing to painting a picture, which I do, or any other creative pursuit. And so I would probably say there's a lot more gamers than tabletop players just because of that. Because
it's more accessible.
It's more accessible for people. One of the things about tabletop games that I've found is it can be somewhat inclusive to, and I don't mean inclusive as in accepting, but like inclusive as in there's like a set amount of people and they kind of ostracize others. And one of the things I like about, and this is why we do a lot of stuff with 5th editions, because it was one of the first game systems that you saw it kind of open up to everybody, right? I kind of blame a lot of Critical Role stuff for that, right? Because they started streaming and everyone got interested into it, and then the movie, the Baldur's Gate game come out now. Baldur's Gate now is introducing people into tabletop games because they're like, man, I really love this video game. I want to do this on a game, and so that's kind of cool, right? To get everybody into it. But traditionally, it wasn't really. You had to know someone who played it.
Yeah.
Instead of now you can get on RPG Match and literally go find a group to play with.
Unfortunately, it's Dungeons and Dragons or D20.
Yes, for the most part, but there's
you can disagree with me.
Well, I would say I'd say 90% of it's D20 based, at least.
But I'm saying unfortunately.
It depends on what you're looking for. Again, we have a great relationship with RPG Match. They people to all kinds of games, and some of the games they have are not. Some of them are, like I said, like just 6-sided systems, or even if you want to play something like Deadlands, which
what
if
is
you've
it?
never Deadlands, oh, it's Wild West in the 1800s after the Civil War, but there's magic
Oh, that's
and
cool.
crazy rifts in Nevada, like basically the Grand Canyon expanded and California broke off. It's ridiculous.
As it does.
Crazy. Yeah, as it does. There's demons, all kinds of fun stuff. So I mean,
Dude.
but that's a D6 based system, I believe, or
D6 is one of my favorite. I love D6.
Well, yeah. So there's all kinds of games out there that people write. There's D10s that are a lot of fun too, right? You can do 2D10 systems exist, and you can find people to play that stuff. It's one of the reasons I'm running the White Wolf game now.
When you say 2D10, you're talking about D100 or 2D10?
Either D100 or there's also 2D10s where you just roll 2D10s, and those are success-based games.
Right. Okay. So one of the reasons that we created DreadLore was because we wanted a system that was going to highlight collaborative storytelling and specifically immersive playing. Right? So it's a system where you using your character gets you into the fiction. And by getting into the fiction, you are rewarded by the system as well as in the group. What possessed you and Matt to... Does he go by Matt or Matthew? Matt. Did you create a system, or have you expanded on a system, or is it tell us.
You mean with what we're writing?
Yep.
No, we just, to be perfectly honest, we don't really care about rules. And as a game creator, I'm sure that probably isn't the thing you want to hear. But
no, I'm an arbiter, or I'm a GM. I hate rules.
Yeah, rules tend to suck. Because here's the thing. This is the thing. This is kind of my whole philosophy about tabletop games. The rules really only exist to tell the story, and if they don't tell the story properly, fuck the rules. Now there are some people that live by the rules, which is fine, and you got to have some rules so that you at least can play the game fairly for everyone. But the rules at its basis are just a system to let everybody know, all right, here's what we're doing. There's lots of tabletop games that don't even use dice rolls.
It gives you structure.
You could play. I mean, I've played. What is it? It's a pirate game we played at DragonCon a couple years ago, where literally you just rock paper scissors to see if you won.
Dude. Back in the day, old World of Darkness LARPs. It was rock paper scissors as well.
Yeah. So I mean, go with the style of game mechanics that work for you. I'm much more interested in, does the game system have a good story? Does it allow players agency to create the world? And is it just really interesting? Like, is it a cool world, right? Like a lot of reason why people like D&D, for example, is because it's got 50 years of history. Right. So there's something for everyone. Same thing with like Shadowrun. Shadowrun's been around forever. People love Shadowrun. Which, if you've never played Shadowrun, it's cyberpunk with magic.
It's cyberpunk with magic, right?
Yeah, it's great. You get a troll with like a data jack. Dope. Yeah, there's other game systems that are like that as well. Getting other players to play something that is either new or different, it can be a challenge. One of the interesting games we reviewed was Old Gods of Appalachia, which is 1920s Depression era in West Virginia Lovecraft.
Dude.
And it's super cool.
Dude. So, okay. Video games are more for, or in your paradigm, are more for escapism. Like entertainment, it's sort of spoon-fed.
They're entertainment for me.
Yeah. TTRPGs, what's that?
I mean, that's the creative outlet right there. That's to play, to create, to either make characters and dive into somebody else's world, or if I'm running it, to add on or create my own game world.
Do you think there's a right and wrong way to do these things?
No.
Why?
Well, no, I let me preface that by saying
Mm,
there's no wrong way to play a game provided everyone is having fun playing it.
okay.
And I'd say the cardinal rule of don't be an asshole, exists. There's I do read I frequently troll Reddit occasionally and listen to like the DM horror stories where
Mm.
you've got people it's all of this, by the way, comes down to a lack of communication on either who's playing or who's running. But if you
Well,
have that understanding,
you could say
you can
that
play
about
anything.
many disagreements, yeah?
I would agree with that as well. Yeah. It all comes down again to communication, right?
Mm.
Most of the
Continue.
time when people have problems playing a game, it's either because they don't understand something or because something isn't expected or
Mm.
it just didn't talk, right? So like we had a game several years ago where someone wanted to play something. It was completely off the wall. In
Mm.
fact, we streamed it, and they wanted to play an elf and dragon hybrid, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Right? And most people would be like, "No way, you can't play. That doesn't exist in the books." But we were like, "What's it gonna hurt?" Right? It doesn't. So long as you don't try to like abuse that, you could play it. And if it was specifically for flavor, sure. But we've changed rules up and stuff playing games as well. One of my players wanted to use crystals instead of somatic uh, gesturing and
Components, right.
material. Yeah. So she just said some words, cost a crystal, and shattered it, and that summoned. She was a summoner, right? And we
Sure.
thought, yeah, sure, you could substitute that. And so we just say certain amount of gold piece per level to do that. If there was a material cost in the spell, there you go, right?
Mm.
And we just
So
home ruled that right then and there.
so it's interesting people get into the minutia of these things, which I think is a good thing. Because like anyone who's super interested in a hobby, and people that are interesting have hobbies, right? A hobby being defined as a job that you don't get paid for.
The majority of your time sink.
Right. So the idea of like you if you're not in that hobby and you see them doing it, it seems so complicated and complex, and it's sometimes difficult to even fathom getting into. To people that are not into tabletop role-playing games, so TTRPGs, talking about the cost of crystals in terms of gold pieces, that's a difficult thing to figure out. Like, how is that a story? How is that fun? Why does it matter that she has, you know, tiger's eye that she's breaking versus fucking selenite? Like, who gives a shit, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I would say for anyone who's never played a game, like say you play Baldur's Gate, and you want to jump into TTRPGs or whatever, right? Jump in and play any game. You have to understand all of it is just telling a story with your friends or people that you will be your friends at some point, hopefully. And the rules determine whether something occurs or doesn't. After that, nothing else matters, right? The rules are made to make the story go easier. So, for example, I don't know. No one's ever done movement speed right in a tabletop game, right? Most people, for example, you can move 30 feet in a round. Okay, what's a round? Well, a round is either 3 or 6 seconds. Okay, cool.
Okay.
You know anybody that can move faster than 30 feet in 6 seconds? They were
I mean,
running?
I can. You can,
Right,
of course. I've
right.
seen you.
But it's just a standard measurement, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the rules don't exist to be real, you know? I mean, you're playing, in fact, most people play games where they're flying around and throwing fireballs or, fighting monsters. Monsters don't exist. Orcs aren't real. Neither are elves, right? Fuck 'em. Play whatever you want.
There's
And
a couple points. Go on, continue.
so my point being is that um, if you're new to the rules and you don't understand how this is interesting, the interesting part about it is how can you use what exists in the rules to make the story or your character or something you're doing interesting and fun. If it's not fun, that's when people get into problems with tabletop games, and that's
Mm.
when I would say, hey, take a look at the rule. If it doesn't work for your table, don't use it, right?
So
Because
this
the
is
intent is
homebrewing.
to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the intent is to have fun, and there's been homebrewing since the first game came out.
Homebrewing's fine. Homebrewing's fine. I have no problem with homebrew. Although there is the idea, so when you're creating a game system, such as turns out I've done with DreadLore.
Sure.
When you're creating a game system, there's the question of, okay, well, why do you have races? And why do the races have bonuses over other races? Because what does that say? You see what I'm saying? You get into like cultural issues. Why do you have an initiative roll? Like, why do you roll for initiative? These are things that D&D does. It's the first real game, tabletop role-playing game, and it's what it does. So you mimic it. Arguably, one of my buddies, he was a former guest on here, Jeff McNeil, influenced DreadLore quite a bit. He said, "Why do you have an initiative roll?" And I was like, "What do you mean, dude?" So that you know who goes when. He was like, "Why?" And I thought about it, and I said, "I don't know why the fuck we have an initiative roll. Like, why do we have initiative rolls?" I mean, there's you can make excuses for it, but actually, it's because D&D has it, and so you need it. Why do you have classes? Why do you have levels? Why do you have a to hit? Like all of these things start being questioned when you start really thinking about game design. What is my point? Is the purpose to have fun? I don't think so.
If that isn't the purpose, why are you playing tabletop games?
I don't think it's the purpose. Okay.
Okay.
So
what would you say the purpose of tabletop games is?
I'm gonna Socratic method the shit out of this. All right. So what makes tabletop role-playing games, TTRPGs, video games, what makes them important?
Oh, you want me to answer that? What makes them important is that humans like to tell stories because they see themselves in the story.
All right.
They like
Does that need
we
to be
are a
fun?
narrative species, yeah.
Does that need to be fun?
It doesn't have to be. Well, yes. I would say yes. And let me tell you why. Hold on.
All right,
It does need to be fun. Now, fun doesn't mean they get everything that they want. Fun could also mean your characters are being tortured slowly and you're playing a horror game. Or you are...
Which can be fun. That can be fun.
Which could be... Right, that could be fun. But
there are people that think that's fun.
Yeah, but if it's not fun, then it's not a game. Games, by their nature, are challenging. They generally require thinking. And tabletop games are based off of role playing, which are storytelling. So there's challenges and stories, and they involve people, and that's fun. By its very nature, that's fun.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick and choose here. Pick and choose. I'm gonna be a little semantic, but it's the reason is to dig at something, and I wonder what your perspective is on it. Role playing versus telling a story, I would argue, are different things. I think that they can overlap, but I think there are two different things. Do you agree or disagree with that? And why? And how?
Telling a story is the story. Usually telling a story, whether it's collaborative or not. Okay, writing a work of fiction is usually done by a single person.
Okay.
And tabletop games are based off of the element of childlike play. If you watch kids, you will watch them play together and build a world collaboratively.
Play.
That is the different, yes. And play, by its nature, is fun.
Truth.
Also, by the way, improv is based off of collaborative play as well.
Indeed, so, I was about to connect it.
Improv and D&D are pretty much the same. The only difference is I don't roll dice when I come up with shit.
DJ No Fly says it's also hard to get into the story from the outside.
It's true. telling a story and reading a story, you are an outside spectator trying to associate with whatever characters the author writes, right? So if you're an author of a book, you're telling a story about some dude or some person or whatever. You have to make that person identifiable somehow with characteristics or something for the people reading it, right? That's tough. You have to sell it to them, right? Whereas if I'm making a story with a bunch of people that I know, or even if I don't know them, right, then they're automatically invested in that story because they're building it with me. That makes it much more interesting for them, because anything that you make with someone else is waived. You're invested automatically by doing it, right? That act of doing makes it worthwhile, even if it's just a boring story. Like, how many times have you DM'd a game where they gone into a dungeon or they went and fought a monster? I've done it thousands of times, and yet every single battle is different because of how people react, because people are unique.
And yet, with these epic stories, or perhaps just harrowing stories, have you ever actually enjoyed listening to someone else tell you about their game or what their character did that one time?
Yes, but I also really love games. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, frequently. People
it does
talk
not
about
happen
like the game they
frequently
had.
for me. Someone, like, we'll be talking about like something obvious, like the Curse of Strahd, so Ravenloft, right? So we'll be like, oh yeah, we did this and this and this. We rolled in, and I think I'm actually talking about a guest right now. Hilarious. He was like, oh yeah, we rolled in, we it was Huffaker. It was the last fucking episode. So Daniel Huffaker, I'm gonna call him the fuck out. He is a consummate DM. Okay? Very good storyteller, very good DM. So organizer, orchestrator. As a player, I postulate that DMs are not the best players. Thoughts?
It depends on the DM.
So this is what I think. Go on.
Why? Yeah, I'm interested in why you would think that.
Oh, because of experience. DMs are usually in control, and we're very mental. We think about what needs to happen. We think about the environment, the volcano. We figure out the riddle. And oftentimes the riddle is simple enough to where a group of people can figure it out. So a DM who's a player obviously or usually knows the rules very well. They know what they're playing. They know the class / archetype that they're playing. They know how to fold all of that in. They know how to leverage all of that ultimate power and break the game.
They can, and many DMs do that when they play as a character.
And that's what I mean. So Daniel Hofker was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play this character, rolled into the Curse of Strahd, and just fucking solved it. Was like, guys, we need to do this shit. And they rolled in and destroyed Strahd, if anyone wants to know, the bad guy, Dracula, in like 2 rounds.
And that's how you don't play a role-playing game.
And they were like fucking level 8. They're like level 8 or 9. And they just fucking rickrolled the main guy.
So let me postulate this for you. This is something that I've noticed. So I'm not a stand-up comedian. I know a bunch of stand-up comedians. Stand-up comedians sell themselves, right? They have to. They have to get the audience to like them. When I'm on stage, I'm with a group of people. It doesn't matter how bad I fail, because I know that someone else is going to back me up.
This is improv stuff.
Improv, yeah. We're a team. Yeah. The best improviser is the one who knows when they shouldn't be front and center, and they should be supporting other people in the scene. D&D, or any tabletop game, is a lot like that. And I think a lot of players, and DMs particularly, could get a lot of knowledge and a lot of use out of some improv lore. Because as a DM, if I'm playing a character, I played a game with a friend of mine who runs a podcast, and I was playing a wizard, which is something you never want me to play in a D&D game, because I will destroy the game with a wizard. Yeah.
Yeah. 3rd ed, you're going to have a fucking item familiar. I understand. I know what's up.
Yeah. Yeah, I can wreck a game. But I knew that some of the people had never played before. Some of them were, I'd say mid-level, and a couple of them knew what they were doing. Right. This was a brand new uh, uh, module that they were running. It didn't matter, right? I kind of figured out what was going on, but I could have beaten it, but that wouldn't have been very fun for anybody, right? And so instead, I played my character like I didn't know stuff. Because my character didn't know stuff. I knew stuff, right? So I'm not my character if I'm breaking
You're
the
actually
game.
role playing.
I'm actually role playing. And in addition to that, I knew when to jump in at a certain point to help other players. And you know what? We all had a great time. And it's because we supported each other, because it wasn't about me winning. There's no winning in this game. You play to break Strahd 2 or 3 rounds. Congratulations. You've now successfully pissed everybody else off and they all feel bad about it.
You've
Instead,
beaten the numbers.
Yeah, you've beaten the numbers. Good job. You figured a problem out. That's not what this game's about. The game is to have the intent has always been to have fun and tell a story with other people.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the fun thing. I don't think it's about fun. Now, you've made a pretty good case. Play and fun. This is a semantic thing. The reason I throw it out here is because in conversations I've had with game system theory people, right? So game design theory type stuff. A lot of people throw out fiction, narrative, story, fun, but it's almost like catch-alls. And these definitions, they almost like mean the same thing. They're like, oh, if you're having fun, it's fine. I take gaming, I think it's elevated. It's not a false elevation. It's not a false elevation either. Because when you're in a game that sucks, you know it sucks. Well, why does it suck? If you just do whatever you want. It's like, well, is the way you go, then it should always be good. And is good defined by everyone having fun? No. I've been at a gaming table where everyone is enjoying themselves, and I'm like, fuck this game. This game sucks.
And everybody wasn't enjoying themselves. If you weren't having fun, then guess what?
Touche. You logic person.
So if you're not having fun, there's something wrong with the game, right? Now, it depends on what people determine fun to be. Some people like to have a very linear game that they play, right? Where they go through this, they do this, all that down, and that's for them is fun. Some people like more of an open world where they just do whatever and they don't like constraints. And sometimes it's fun to play with constraints, right? I mean, that's why people write modules. Otherwise, you wouldn't have modules. You just have lore books where people do anything.
Can you define fun?
Yeah.
I know that's a stupid question. I don't even know if I can define fun, honestly. But
I would say,
is it possible to do so?
I would say in the terms of tabletop games, it's everyone at the table is enjoying what they're doing. They're enjoying playing the characters. They're enjoying being in the moment, in the scene. It's
a relationship.
It's a relationship.
Okay, there you have a group of people that fill in the gaps here. You have a group of people at the table. What?
Well,
and this is fun. Let's describe it.
Okay. They're storytellers telling a story. The people are involved. They are into their characters. The rule system is either simple enough or complex enough to accommodate what they want to do.
Same headspace.
They're in the same headspace. They're in the same headspace, same agenda. Everyone's in sync. The act of play and the act of creation is engaged.
Everyone's doing that.
Everyone's doing it. Everyone's engaged.
That equals fun. Okay, so fun is the goal. It's not enjoyment. I know I'm being really nitty-gritty here. Like a math problem. All of those things need to be going on.
Yeah. And the thing is that, it's not, if you play with it with a goal in mind, you're probably not going to have fun.
Really? When you're in an improv group and you're on stage, you don't have a goal?
Never. In fact, the first rule of improv is don't think. As soon as you
Does that mean
As soon as you start trying to box things up and not make yourself open, being in the moment, that is when it no longer is fun on stage. And interestingly enough, it's never funny as well.
Fair enough. Interesting.
I would test people who write stories or storytell in general. Think of the rules as ways to help characters versus boxing them. Now, boxing them in is fun sometimes too, but you have to, if you can't. So in storytelling, there's that suspension of disbelief, right? Right? Why do we like this TV show? Like, go back to Star Wars. Right? Why do I like the Mandalorian? Because Mandalorian is badass, right? He comes in, he grabs somebody, he's got Baby Yoda. Who doesn't love Baby Yoda, right? I want a Baby Yoda, but that suspension of disbelief, you can relate to that person. If I can't relate to my character that I'm playing or the story that someone's telling or we're all telling together, I'm not having fun. When that relationship, because it's all about relationships. Guess what? Human society is based off of relationships. These games we do, again, role-playing games, improv, comedy, it's all based on when you were a kid playing in a sandbox with your friend. The only difference is that now we've got a couple of rules. Guess what? Kids make up rules all the time too. They say, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. And if they don't like it, they're not having fun, right? But when you see two kids play, I urge a lot of people, by the way, if you don't have kids, go find somebody that has kids. Watch kids play. Watch what they do. It is the most purest form of interaction you'll ever see. If they're not fighting, if they're not at each other's throats, then they're
especially
playing.
If they're fighting.
But they're always building something. They're always creating something because that's who we are as a species. That's why we put people on the moon, man, because we can make stuff.
I wish Ken was on this audio. Ken, can you jump on? That is good shit. Okay, so there is plenty more for us to talk about. However, I like that ending note. I like that. Say it again. It's about play.
All about play.
The last moment. It's about play, tabletop role-playing games, video games to an extent. The issue with video games is unless you're dealing with a multiplayer where you're actually collaborating and working together. God damn.
You're passively being told a story. So you're not as invested in it. Tabletop gaming, the reason I do this, the reason I talk about it, the reason I did this whole show, because I'm just trying to get back to that point in time when I was a little kid, sitting in a sandbox, playing make-believe with my friends. That's what it's all about.
Why is story so important to us?
It's who we are as a species. We identify with stories. Look at every religion on the planet. Look at every single, philosophy that's based off of anything. It's all narratives, the stories we tell ourselves, the archetypical things that we identify as. I mean, Jungian psychology. It's the sciences that we have.
We definitely have to have you back on here.
Sorry, I could go. Yeah,
we're gonna get in it.
Megan said it best. It engages us, right? Like
it engages.
That's what it is. Yeah, when we are engaged, we're on fire. All 4 cylinders are running. Good to go.
All right, so we're gonna give you the last words here in a moment. I want to hear from Ken in a second. Yeah. So, we do the DreadLore game. We do a live play on Mondays. The game where we have guest stars is called Into Space. It's very Aliens-esque. It's a dry heat. Did not fall on false ears. We would love to have you in that game if you have the time. It's on a Monday night for you.
We can talk about it. Let me see.
All right, we'll talk about it. But we would love to have you on. I would love to have you play in that game. Very narrative forward game. Okay. Ken, thoughts, and then we're gonna have Eric the last thoughts.
Am I on mute? Oh my god.
No, you're unmuted.
I was trying to say that Into Space was like Aliens meets Starship Troopers.
Meets
you like to know more? Star Trek, a little bit.
Good bug's a dead bug.
Oh,
right.
Service
Oh,
equals citizenship.
yes.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
subscribing equals
absolutely.
citizenship.
Yeah,
Hey, YouTube.
that's a real thing. My thought is that you should never fly in a plane because that's where you get the flu. Wear a mask when you're on an airplane.
Wear your
Everybody.
mask, man.
Take your
But
vitamin.
no, I like the conversation at the end there. I thought you guys were really hitting on some stuff. I really love the idea of, um, the fun is working out that character, because that character that you've built, there's a little bit of you, and so you've built this sculpture of a entity that is in your mind that you're having fun with, and you're having this like army guy or this character, this magician run around this imaginary world, and you're having this wonderful time playing with other beings, and you don't know how they're going to react or what's going to be thrown at you, and the consequences, like, they're not really that bad. So you have opportunity to explore different ideas and such without consequence. Or, I mean, you can always say the wrong thing to a friend, and they could hate you
You
forever.
can definitely say the wrong thing in Into Space, Ken.
Might
All right.
cut your head
Yeah,
off.
you might. Eric, closing thoughts. What do you want everyone in the world to know? Tell us all the good stuff. Take as long as you want.
I want everyone in the world to know. That soap happens, and you should use more of it. That people aren't all dicks. You should be nice to people. Aside from that, you can find us at Goblin's Corner.
Boom.
Yeah, where we do a weekly podcast or YouTube show. We're on all the players. Got a bunch of stuff. Dig it up.
Nice. Well, thank you for being on the podcast, the Geeky Gamer podcast. I've enjoyed the conversation. I really wish that I could have asked you some questions and been more in it. But thank you, Bill, for picking up the slack.
Indeed. I don't know how much slack I picked up. I do enjoy it when it's Ken and me, because Ken is so much better at actually asking questions. So you've been at a bit of a disservice, Eric, dealing with my bullshit.
That's
but I think it was
true.
really good.
You got a way about you. You pull it out. You pull it out.
Never pull out. All right. So everybody, thank you so much for jumping in.
Sitting in front of everybody. You're like, here this is. I'm putting it here. You see it?
Eric, you do improv. Do you have a show coming up? What's going on?
So we have we have a show coming up at Limelight Theater in 2 weeks. It's Captain's Log. It is a improvised Star Trek episode.
What?
And yes.
What? What's
we make it up on the fly.
Do you have like a website or an Instagram or whatever the fuck it?
CaptainsLogImprov.com. You can come check that out. We also play at DragonCon every year and various other conventions. As I mentioned, Matt and I have a book coming out, Ludicrous Bestiary. We'll also be at Breakout Con this year in Toronto. And, of course, we'll be at DragonCon every year.
Canada.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be cold. Never been there.
Cool.
When is that?
That's in March. Breakout Con's
and what
in
is
March. It's a sci-fi...
Wait, what is it called again?
Breakout Con.
Breakout Con in Toronto. So if you want to go to Canada...
Come hang out with us.
Hey, listen, if you Canadians, go on.
Yeah, we get some poutine. It'd be great. Dude, or if you want to hang out in some dirty ass fries,
dude,
it'd be great.
Poutine is awesome, dude.
Poutine is delightful.
Listen, how dare you make me acknowledge Canada? What the fuck?
We're also going to be at DragonCon this year. We'll probably be at several other conventions as well. We'll put that on goblinscorner.com, or you can
Sure.
always check us out on our podcast. We'll talk about it at some point.
Fuck yeah. And when is your podcast?
We're coming out next. We'll have another episode out next week, generally on Thursdays or Fridays.
Thursdays or Fridays. And I would go to Spotify or any podcast thing to see it. Do you do like a YouTube or any of that stuff? Or
we do. It's youtube.com/at Goblin's Corner, I believe.
At Goblin's Corner. All right. Y'all fucking check out the shit. They clearly know what they're talking about. And they're going to be everywhere. They're like traveling and shit. They're professional.
We're on the road.
They're on the road, man. Ken, last thoughts. We're going to end.
I thought that Eric had the last.
Yeah, you thought. You thought.
Last word.
I mean, that was the thought that I.
Patreon people, thank you so much. Ken, would you like to introduce them?
No, you can do it.
Daniel Holker, thank you so much, sir. He was on earlier. Nostalgic for kicking ass in the chat. Woo.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Roberts, for giving us the most money ever. Tim Roberts is the bomb. And our newest Patreon person, Natalia Cline. Thank you very much for kicking ass. I don't think we had any music, but when we do, all lowercase letters, you can check that out on Instagram, Spotify, fucking TikTok, wherever the fuck you want to go. Go get some all lowercase letters, baby. Mr. Interrupt, also, these are music things. Thank you so much. God damn it. You will note that our podcast does not suck, and the reason is because of Couchfire Media. You want to go to www. You better add those W's. If you don't, suck it.
Then you get a broken link.
You get fucking nothing. It's gonna be bad for you. I want some W's, motherfucker. www.
Just lazy.
Couchfiremedia.com. Motherfucker, go there. What the fuck is wrong with you? Go there right now.
Don't forget about Soireeblade Productions.
Right, we don't talk about that. This is why they have me and lots of sponsors. The Goblin's Corner on Instagram. Goblin's Corner everywhere. Fucking go see them. What the fuck's wrong with you? God damn it. All right.
Hey,
Eric,
bartender,
thank you so much.
pay your servers, folks. They work hard at it.
All right, we're out. Much love and all that bullshit. Go get bent. All right, we're gone.